In a world of ordinary fantasy football podcasts, ordinary guys rise up to bring you extraordinary analysis and entertainment. This is the Falafel House Fantasy Football Podcast with your hosts Kevin Cotillo, Sal Lito, and Stephen Marcus.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Today is Thursday, January 12th, and this is the Falafel House Fantasy Football Podcast. And yes, that's right, we are celebrating some Billy Joel, because, the boys are back in town, right?
Oh, God.
Sorry, I had to do it. That's a joke to our good friend Money Martins from the Fantasy Life chat app. He clearly was having some struggles figuring out who Billy Joel was this morning.
Which is crazy considering Billy Joel's actual name is William Martin Joel, and
Right.
Money's name is William Martins.
William Martins, yeah, so that is interesting. But Sal, so you were the Uptown girl last night, huh?
That's what you said about me, Kev. You
That's
said
right.
because I made you guys delay the show. Now, let's go back. I actually said to you guys I have tickets to the show, and Steve volunteered to push the show back at night.
No. See, now, this is a discrepancy, right? Because you say that. And yet I distinctly remember you saying, maybe it was a joke or not, but distinctly remember you saying, unless you guys want to record, one day later with the little hands symbol thing saying, please do it. I distinctly remember that being messaged.
So I'll give you a little Sal 33 insight. Ready? When I make jokes, they have underlying tones of truthfulness to them. So yes, I
I'm
kind
aware.
of threw that out there, and I
to-
threw my
but-
worm in the water. And
No, but you
Steve
know
bit,
what? Though? You know what?
What
though?
did I just say?
Steve took the bait, like completely, hook, line, and
Yeah,
sinker.
he jumped all over that. He was just dangling that,
Yeah.
shaking off my line.
Where is
oh
Steve?
my God,
Where's
this is
he?
terrible.
Oh, that's right. He's not here tonight. So,
So you want to open up with Uptown Girl. I
That's
want to go
correct.
with Angry Young Man. I want to use the actual recording that I got from the show last night, and I got rejected by our audio guy. And
also Steve.
after finding out that Steve can't be on the show tonight, after he graciously offered to not record last night, for me, I feel like an Uptown Girl now. I do
Let's
feel
see.
like
Well,
I live in my white bread world over here.
that's right. A little spoiled brat, white bread world. You're that's it. You're the problem.
Hi, Steve.
Listen, hey Steve. So Steve can't be here tonight. Something about his babysitter being too big time for him, I think, is what he said. Is it some?
Yeah, his 14-year-old niece or cousin, their cousin,
Yeah.
big timed them tonight.
Yeah.
So,
Again.
So-
So that's too
he's
bad.
wiping snotty noses right now and changing diapers. No, his kid's not in diapers anymore, is he?
I don't think so. I think that was a recent development, though, somewhat recent. Not to get too.
Way to
into-
go, Tucker.
That's right, Tucker.
Good
Nice
kid.
job. Congratulations to him on being able to take care of the bathroom yourself. Sal is heading in the other direction where he will not be able to soon. So
You don't even know how realistic that is. Had a couple of close calls, but I digress.
listen, this is a solid start to the program so far. So I'm sure we.
What are we talking? Football? What is this?
That's it, right? So this is the Falafel House Fantasy Football Podcast. Just to start off, you guys can follow us on Twitter. It's the Falafel House, at Falafel House, I should say. I am at Wally Central. Sal is at Lito Sal, and Steve, if you want to hear some more about Tucker's bathroom incidents, is at Sid Skeet. I don't think he really posts that, so you're probably safe to follow him anyway.
No, he has a separate Twitter called Bathroom Shenanigans with Tucker.
Oh, good. Yeah. Is that all together, all one word? Or is he
It's one continuous word.
That's right.
No underscores.
You can also check out the falafelhouse.com, where there is some material mostly relevant to last season, but we're going to start pumping out some new stuff for the off season and things like that soon. So definitely go check it out. I think we'll probably, I haven't told Sal this yet, but we'll be probably doing our off season ranking soon, Sal. So get ready for that.
Christ, more work.
That's it. You can also pop into the Fantasy Life app, as we mentioned, and check us out at the Falafel House chat. So we are always in there, and it's always a good time. We're gonna do football tonight. We are actually gonna get to some football. We wasted enough of your time, I think. So what we're gonna do tonight is basically go over the games coming for the upcoming playoff schedule. Sal, there's some doozies in there. I think it should be
doozies.
I think it should be better than last week anyway. I think there'll be some closer games.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, not one of them.
Well, right. 3 out of the 4 should be closer.
I think that the Texans will probably stay in until midway through the first quarter. I give them a shot.
All right. So we'll go through those. Obviously, there's 4 games. We're gonna, as we do that, we're gonna talk about some DraftKings. We did it again. We challenged each other to a DraftKings challenge because really Sal and I, neither of us can handle the fact that Steve won the first one. So
now, did you make this? This is open to more people, correct?
Yeah, there is. Let me see. How many people do we have?
Thank God, because if I come in third place this week, I won't be last. So that's good.
Yeah, that is better for you. I am trying to see here where we are. Let me see the entries in this one.
I believe you're at 5 out of 10. Did you make it for 10?
I made it for 10, but yes, we didn't. I don't know that we'll get all 10. So.
Oh, we'll get all 10. I'll call in the boys.
I'm trying to figure out here. So DraftKings website is a little it's questionable, huh? As far as figuring out those things, but
the website's questionable. When will we know if it's going to play?
Yeah, right. That's right. I have no idea when the website will play.
Weekend is coming up, and people have money to lose.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so I'm not sure which lineup I've set for this, so I'm going to wing it, and we'll talk about both lineups as we go through. But first, Sal, let's get to a little news because there surprisingly is a bunch of stuff aside from the injuries and things related to the game. There is a lot of stuff going on in the NFL right now. We got a lot of coaching hires happening recently.
A flurry.
A flurry.
A slew.
A flurry indeed. Up to this last post on RotoWorld that I see at 7:55 p.m., which for us is relatively recent. That's only about a half an hour ago, where Anthony Lynn has been named to the L.A. Chargers coach. He's their head coach now. The L.A.
Nice
Chargers.
Logo, Anthony.
Yeah, logos. Wow, all the posts on that today were hilarious because there's everywhere. You couldn't look through any fantasy football Twitter or any other social media and not see something about the stupid logo that they chose.
So they did come out at one point and say that this is not the logo. It will not appear on their helmets or uniform. It was more of something to use as an unveiling for today. But I'm sure that there are hats being sold with that logo on it. Essentially, it's the Los Angeles Dodgers logo with a little lightning bolt shoot out of it, which is that's cute. You
think the guy who developed it got fired today after it came out and the reaction people had?
If he did, I just hope he got his check last week. Hopefully, he cashed his check already.
Yeah, right. All right, so Anthony Lynn winds up to be the coach there. Mike McCoy, who was the previous coach, ends up going back to Denver to be their offensive coordinator, and he will be working for who do we have here? Vance Joseph. I always get the two confused. Is it Joseph Vance or is it Vance Joseph? It's Vance Joseph, the former defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins. It looks like I'm pretty sure it's his first foray into the head coaching world. So he walks into a pretty decent situation, though.
Couple of new guys jumping in, all right? A couple of coordinators are getting an opportunity this year, which is, it's good. You hate to see these same guys recycled, these Rex Ryans recycled over and over again. So we'll see if the young blood can come up and get it done.
Speaking of young blood, Sean McVay is the set to become the youngest head coach in history. He's going to be taking over the LA Rams job. He's 30 years old, Sal.
Yeah, I want to say, Steve, what are you doing? This guy's 30 years old.
Yeah,
he's got the head coaching job. You're 31, brother. I mean, let's go.
But we both know he's 31 going on like 75.
At least 75.
Yeah.
I think you're being generous.
It's possible. Yeah, he's older than Billy Joel. There's no question about that.
That is true. Billy Joel rocked. He kicked some ass last night. 68 years old.
Could you imagine Steve playing anything for 3 hours straight?
I just had a terrible thought in my mind that I think we should move forward.
All right, let's just continue on. What other coaching hires do we have here? Sean McDermott, the defensive coordinator from the Carolina Panthers, moves over the Bills, and I think that basically that kills all of the open positions except for the San Francisco 49ers job, right?
Right. They have not found anybody who wants that. Nobody seems to. They're avoiding San Francisco like it's the plague.
Yeah, and you and I both speculated there's only two real hot prospects left, in my opinion. It's
fire.
It's Shanahan and McDaniels, the two offensive coordinators who had two of the best offenses in the league. Obviously, both still in the playoffs. They had the bye week, so they were able to do some interviews, but I think San Francisco is going to wait it out for one of those two guys because I think they want to make a splash with one of the bigger names. I don't think the other teams wanted to wait, which is why you see some of these guys getting a chance. But I think it'll be McDaniels or Shanahan in San Francisco if they want the job. If I were them, I'd say no.
Yeah, I think that Shanahan is obviously he's got the family history, but I like McDaniels because he's already been there and he's already gone through the trials and tribulations of being a head coach for the first time, and he learned from his mistakes. Kind of went back to New England with his tail between his legs a little bit, but he jumped back into that opportunity over there, and he really put himself back in the spotlight for a coaching job. So if it's me, I think I'm going McDaniels, but guess what? It's not me.
It is not you. Like I said, if I'm McDaniels and I'm actually offered that job, I would probably respectfully decline because, look, he's got a great situation here in New England. He can pretty much just wait for the perfect opportunity to arise as far as coaching because, I mean, first of all, what is it? On average, 6 get fired every year. So jobs are going to open up. You can pick and choose when you want to go.
Yeah, we know the Browns will be open next year.
I don't know. Hugh Jackson's good. I think they'll give him a couple of years.
I like Hugh. When the Raiders had him and let him go, I was extremely disappointed. I thought he was a good football guy, and I thought he had that organization running in the right direction. But there was a little bit of butting heads with him and McKenzie because I think Hugh wanted too much control of the organization. Mm-hmm. But I think he's a good football guy, a good offensive mind. And I agree with you. I think that Cleveland will, they're not going to be winning divisions in a year or so. But I think that there'll be a threat. They'll be getting up to 8-8, and at some point, I could see them getting into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean,
under Hugh,
we know it's all quarterback, right? So if they go out, in my opinion, if they went out and got a guy like a Garoppolo, or tried to somehow get some other starting caliber quarterback from somewhere, obviously it's not going to be the draft this year. There's really not a lot of great prospects coming out, but if they did get like a Garoppolo or someone else, I think his leash might get a little shorter because obviously then you have something to work with, right? So,
are you related to Jimmy Garoppolo?
I am not related to Jimmy Garoppolo.
I feel like you're trying to get him to Cleveland to get a starting job in Cleveland.
No, I'm a Patriots fan, man. I want that. I want that one overall. never. You ain't getting it.
You ain't getting it for Garoppolo.
Never gonna happen. I want that. I mean, I'll take the first pick in the second round too. So
you don't think Deshaun Watson is going to get overdrafted this year by somebody?
I think he will. I like to think that, although I have no idea why, I like to think that Cleveland's smarter than that to take him number 1 overall. So,
yeah, they were smart enough to pass up on. That was a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, look, obviously they don't have the best track record for stuff like that, but it is new management pretty much all over the place, and it is a new coach, so hopefully, he can convince them. But I do think Watson's going to get overdrafted. I think that it's going to be it's eerily similar to Vince Young, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's definitely a good comparison.
Someone made that comparison in the chat. I forget who actually. Prior to the game, saying that they thought it was really more saying that they thought he was going to have a huge game against Alabama because of and it reminded him of Vince Young. I don't think he was actually comparing the two players, but to me the situations are very similar because they're both quarterbacks that have obvious mobile ability that can make plays happen with their legs. You have to they're a dual threat. They can throw the ball a mile, have a cannon for an arm, and looks like they're throwing, great downfield. But in my mind, they're throwing to mostly wide open spaces. So that's when you start getting into, does he really make the reads correctly? Does he really adjust correctly? Will he be able to fit the ball into tighter windows? And I don't know that Deshaun Watson's that guy. Based on all the scouts, it doesn't seem like he is. So.
Yeah, so there was one more coaching hire while we were on here. A defensive coordinator position has been filled. In Buffalo, they hired Leslie Frazier.
Yeah, that's a good pick for them, too, because I think a lot of the players want to go back to a 4-3, and he's a good 4-3 type of coach. So I think that's a good. Leslie Frazier is a good defensive coordinator. He wasn't a great coach, but
yeah, he was head coach in Minnesota, right, for a couple of years.
Yes.
Yeah, but you're right. He's one of these guys who some guys are. We've said this before. Some guys just aren't head coaches. They're position coaches or side of the ball coaches.
Yeah,
and I think Leslie Frazier is one of those guys. So I think the Bills are they have people in place over there. I mean, only a few years ago, before Rex Ryan screwed it up, Doug Marrone had himself a nice defense in Buffalo. So, we'll see. Maybe they can knock off those Patriots.
I don't think so. But anyway, let's. Any other news that you want to talk about? Obviously, we should probably talk about some players. I think there's some injury concerns you may want to look into. What do we talk about?
Looks like Jordy. They're saying it would take a miracle for Jordy Nelson to get into the game this week. So this is one of those things. I put it into the rules of the Falafel Playoff Fantasy Challenge. You pick a guy, he gets hurt, he's out. That's it. You don't have the opportunity to replace him. So while most people lost 4 players last week, some people lost 5 because Jordy Nelson, he took what ended up being an illegal hit to the ribs because he was technically a defenseless receiver, even though he was actually in the middle of catching the ball at the time. So the NFL rules are really kind of odd, but It was pointed out that it was considered an illegal hit, but it was not called. And it looks like he's got some definite rib issues.
Yeah, I don't see him playing. I don't know that a rib is a soft tissue, Sal. I'm not sure if
I was singing.
I'm not sure if you're clear on soft tissue issues, but
I was singing. He's got a rib issue.
Oh, nice new song! Wow, a follow-up ballad. I like it.
Yeah, I'm kind of like what's that guy's name? Vanilla Ice. It's a different song, but they sound exactly the same.
Right.
Just change the words around.
Yeah, that's right. Ben Roethlisberger is practicing in full. He'll be fine, as we thought. Ladarius Green, on the other hand, still not playing, not practicing. Looks like he's a long shot for Sunday. Who else are we talking about? DeAndre Hopkins says his knee is excellent, Sal. Did you know it was bad?
I didn't know that it was unexcellent.
Right, I thought it was. I mean, you could have guessed maybe it was unexcellent based on the season he had, but, let's see what else we got here.
Spencer Ware, he sat out week 17, and they had the bye week, so he is a full-go in practice, so he's going to be in there this week.
Garrett Blount has some kind of illness. I'm going to guess it's the flu. There's a lot of that going around here, so I'm going to guess it's the flu, but it sounds like he's going to be fine. So,
do you think he's got a case of the I don't want to waste my breath against the Texans?
Yeah, probably part of that, or more so I just don't feel like I need to practice is really what it is, I think. And that's pretty much it for stuff going on this weekend that you have to worry about. And what was there was one other thing that you wanted to talk about, Sal, and I know that you are a big fan of this player, so I'll let you talk about him. Tom Coughlin is saying that Blake Bortles is their guy.
That's right. Tommy Boy went down. He got hired as the guy who's running basically the organization.
He's basically,
I guess, the player personnel guy.
He's holding Marone's hand, I think, is really what the
yes.
What the job is.
Come with me, Doug.
Yes.
And he says that Blake Bortles is their quarterback. So get ready, everybody. Another year of Bortles. Woohoo! Who, by the way, was like a top 10 quarterback this year in fantasy. You can check that out.
Junk time.
Junk time counts, man.
It does count, but it's
Junk time
just a
counts.
joke. All right, so that's it, though. Any other news that you wanted to go over, Sal?
No, man. Let's get to some playoff
All right,
football.
let's talk some football. The first game this weekend is the Saturday matchup, 4:35. Seattle travels to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. This game should be interesting, Sal, because I think what you have here is obviously a team that is phenomenal on offense, especially at home, going up against a ridiculous defense. Obviously we know about the Seattle defense. I think that they've had, some issues here and there throughout the season, but ultimately, just like they do most seasons, they've ended up somewhere at the top in most defensive categories. They're great against quarterbacks. They're great against running backs. They're great against wide receivers. Wide receivers is really their least successful venture, and they gave up the 21st most fantasy points to wide receivers. So that's shows you where they are. They're top 10 in just about every, or top 11, I should say, in just about every category. So what do you think, Sal, from this game? Is Atlanta's vaunted offense going to be stifled?
No, I don't. I think that when these two teams played during the regular season, we saw that it really wasn't. If we remember how that game ended, it ended with Julio Jones basically being interfered with and the flag not being thrown, and everybody in the world clearly saying it should have been interference. So I think that they showed in that game that they could put up points on the Seahawks. No, I don't think so. I think the Falcons are going to come in and win this game, and I think they're going to put up upper 20s and maybe low 30s, which is something you don't normally see against the Seahawks, especially in the playoffs. Seahawks were good, not great this year. I think it's a product of the division that they were in, especially Arizona not being what everybody thought, that they were able to hold on to win that division. I mean, they did everything they could at the end of the year, I think, to try and give it away. But, they got a little bit lucky. But I'm not worried. I'm not worried about Julio Jones in this game. I'm not worried about my running backs. I'm just really not concerned. It's not in Seattle. And Seattle doesn't impress me like they did just a few short years ago.
Interesting. I mean, I'm curious about that. I mean, you look at the Seahawks, the 8th most passing yards this season. The touchdowns? They're somewhere in the where are we at here? Sorry, bear with me while I figure that out. Actually, given up a decent amount of touchdowns to through the air. So, but I think their defense is still really good and really solid. I think away from their home stadium in Seattle, I think they do struggle a little bit more. So, but Sal, let me ask you, see if you have the answer to this question. What? The Atlanta Falcons scored 540 points this season, which is obviously, I think they tied the Rams. I think we talked about that before. Do you know what the next highest scoring team was and what they scored?
In all time in the NFL?
No, this season. Just this season. 540 points.
Next...
540 points for Atlanta. Who was second, and how many did they score?
All right, I'm going to try to guess who the second place team was. I'm not going to have the point total, but I'm going to try to guess. Next best explosive offense. Is it my team? Is it the Oakland Raiders?
Nope. The Oakland Raiders came in at seventh with 416 points.
Was it your team?
My team came in third with 441.
All right, I was close.
I'll give you one more guess, and then we'll move on.
Okay, one more guess, and then we'll move on.
I'm actually surprised.
You're surprised that I'm not getting it?
Yeah, it's fairly obvious, the team, anyway. The points I wouldn't.
That's what I'm worried about. It's going to be obvious, and then I'll be called out for the fraud that I am.
Well, we all know.
What? Is it the Packers?
No. Packers came in at fourth, 432. The Saints. The Saints.
Oh.
The New Orleans Saints was second with 469 points. They were 71 points behind the Falcons. So,
wow.
I guess what I'm saying is, while I do think Seattle's defense is still almost as good as it has been in the past, I don't think it matters with this team, and I think you're right. I mean, this team just knows how to score. They're gonna run it up. The question is really at that point, can Seattle keep up with them? Obviously, the defense for the Falcons has been suspect. Throughout the year, they gave up a large amount of points in the season. So
they basically give up 25 points a game.
Yeah,
the Falcons, and
406 points against them this year. So.
Yeah, so they give up 25 points a game, and the Seahawks score 22 points a game. So, they'll probably be somewhere right in that range. But the Falcons score almost 34 points a game, and I know that the Seahawks give up, just under 19. But I just feel like I said, I think they'll get into the upper 20s, and they'll be able to hold Seattle to somewhere around 22, 23 points. So I think that they move on to Falcons. I think that Julio Jones is rested. He's gotten plenty of time now to be off of that leg. And I think that Julio Jones puts up a large number in this game. I'm talking close to 200 receiving yards for Julio Jones in this game.
Wow. 200. All right. Yeah, I mean, look, we'll talk a little bit of, obviously we'll get into the DraftKings challenge a little bit later, but we can kind of talk as we go through. I don't have any Julio Jones stock this weekend. I only have a couple of lineups so far. I might add a couple more, and in particular in ours, I didn't go for Julio Jones. I just didn't like the price. I didn't think that it was a great value, and I don't know that I'm seeing 200 yards out of him. So,
no, you don't know about it, but I know.
Oh, you do? Oh,
yeah.
Well,
with that said, he was too expensive. I didn't pay.
So wait a second. You know a guy's getting 200 yards, and you think that it's too. Like if he gets 200 yards, then he's worth the money no matter what it is.
Yeah, no, my roster's not completely set though. So
it's that's set, good. But... That's gonna make for a good show.
I'm gonna just tear it up.
Yeah, obviously. All right. So is there anyone from either of these teams that you do have in your lineup currently?
Yeah. I have. I'm actually starting Doug Baldwin because I think Baldwin just gets. You're starting him too, so I'm going to change that. I'm not starting Doug Baldwin.
Yeah, I thought the value with Baldwin was really good because
I agree. Yes,
he comes in. He's the third highest priced wide receiver, but you're talking about 8,100. I think that against this defense, he can. He'll have a big day. He's obviously on fire right now, so. I thought it was a great value at 81.
Yeah, and the guy who is his biggest threat for targets and receptions is Jimmy Graham, and he hasn't looked that great. So correct. I think Baldwin is the guy that Wilson is most reliant
on. Steve, by the way, who sent in his lineup, even though he couldn't be with us, he has Rawls in this game, which I thought it was interesting. It's an interesting play. I didn't like the value with Rawls myself, 6,900 for a running back. I know he had the big game, but to me it feels like chasing points.
Yeah, I can see that. There's these talks that CJ Prosise might be a game-time decision, but we're both pretty much convinced he's not going to play this week. But, Rawls is – the guy runs hard. You can't deny that. He had a great game last week and he runs hard. But who says he's going to come out and do that back-to-back? I guess Steve does.
Yeah, I believe Steve does feel that way since he paid the money. But again, in my mind, when you're talking about the running backs, I just see value elsewhere, right? Because at, 6,900, he's the third highest priced running back. You could get Freeman, who I know is playing against Seattle, which I didn't touch that either, but he's $1,000 less. Or LeGarrette Blount, who is another guy that we'll talk about that game in a little bit, but $1,100 less than Rawls, who's almost guaranteed to score a touchdown in that game. And then one of your guys who I think you did play is Spencer Ware, who we talked about too. So, but we'll get into that. So, anyone else from the Atlanta Seattle game that you're looking at for DraftKings?
Yeah, you got to be careful with these games. While I do feel Atlanta is going to be fine and put up their points, Seattle could really come out and shut them down. Is it possible? Absolutely. I don't think it'll happen. So I'm staying away from the running backs. For DraftKings, I'm staying away from the running backs in Atlanta, based on I mean, Coleman, I would go with him if I was going to go with one of the two of them because he does score touchdowns and he's $1,400 cheaper. But I'm staying away from either one of those guys. There's better options, I feel, this week that you can go with.
Yep. I did play the Falcons defense, actually, interestingly enough. And the reason I did that is because, I mean, the defensive choices in this week, in my mind, aren't great unless you want to spend the $4,000 on the Patriots.
I went with the Steelers at 2,900. I think that they've played much better on defense. I am starting Ware, but they have played much better against the run. And Kansas City finds ways to get it done, but they're not a guarantee to come out and put up big points. So
no, I agree. They were the other one I considered. I rather save the $300 and take the Falcons. Knowing that it could go either way, right? Either Seattle's going to come out and score a lot of points, or Seattle's going to come out and look silly because they're away from their they're on the road and they just aren't prepared, which we've seen a few times. So I took a shot in the dark with by saving the money, the second lowest price defense out there. So I think I put my money elsewhere. But all right, let's move along. The Houston Texans, we talked about it, are traveling to Foxborough to take on the New England Patriots. That game will be at 8:15 on Saturday. Sal, I think what number would it take for you to be comfortable betting on the Patriots? What's the spread? What do you have to get as far as points? To bet Houston, I guess is what
to take the Texans in that game.
Yeah.
I'll say that I will say that you would need 22 points because I think that the Patriots will win by at least 3 touchdowns.
So you wouldn't touch this game unless they give you at least 22.
Yeah, I think at 22 you'd be crazy not to take it. But
yeah,
you're not going to get that. But I do think the Patriots will win this easily at 3+ touchdowns.
Yeah, I think it's what 16 right now is the line.
Last I saw it, that's what it was at. I haven't looked back at it because there's nothing that interests me about it at all.
No, I wouldn't touch this game with a 10-foot pole unless, like you said, you're up over 3 touchdowns. I agree. I think that for New England, as far as fantasy is concerned, they're all good plays in this one because while Houston's defense has played really well, we know that with a week's rest and everyone coming out firing, they're just gonna lay it on thick. I think they're gonna lay it on thick quick, and then maybe take their foot off the gas a little and run the clock out. That's what I see happening. I think they could be up by 21-0, in my opinion, by halftime, and then just kind of cruise it out. But you seem to think it might be a little bit of a different game flow.
Yeah, I actually think that they could be up by 21 at the end of the first quarter. I think they're just going to come out.
I thought you had told me that you thought that the Texans might keep it close for like a couple of quarters, and then. Oh,
you didn't hear what I said. The joke that I said. I said I think that the Texans will keep it close at least till midway through the first quarter.
That's way different. Yes, that's funny. Okay, nice work, Sal. Yeah, I mean, what else is there to talk about here? Are you playing anyone for Houston if you can? I mean, DeAndre Hopkins in your lineup at all? I mean, he's got to be the only one that you can consider. Maybe Lamar Miller, but the way the Patriots have played against the run this year, I don't even think that that's an option.
Yeah, we actually talked about that on the last show, and I said if you're playing in like Scott Fish's format where you could only use a guy one time throughout the playoffs and then he's done, you can't be used again, this might be the time to go with DeAndre Hopkins because they're not going to be playing next week, so it's your last shot to use them, and they're going to be trailing, and they're going to be throwing.
Yeah.
So there's always a chance he could get a long, late touchdown. So if I was going to go in any direction, it would be Hopkins. Other than that, no, I'm not putting Miller in there. I think the Patriots are going to come out and stuff the run. I expect the Patriots to come out and be fully dominant in this game.
I completely agree. So I went with a couple of lower-priced options from the Patriots here. I didn't take Tom Brady because I thought the money was too much. I didn't take Blunt because even him. Well, I think he's a good bet to score here. I just wanted to save some money for some other higher prices. So for me, I went with James White and Chris Hogan because they were cheap options. I think there's a possibility that they score, and they really left me the ability to put money elsewhere.
So in my original lineup, I had James White in there. So I agree with you. I think that James White, what was he, $3,000, Kevin?
3,400, yeah. So very cheap option as far as anyone that might touch the ball.
And there's a solid possibility he'll get a receiving touchdown because they've actually, and especially if Blunt, as this illness carries over, they've actually run Lewis more than they've run him, I think, in the past. And if they're going to not have Blunt or Blunt's going to be hampered, I think Lewis will be running the ball a little bit more and White will be worked into the passing game. So I don't think that's a bad option at all. I'm working on my lineup right now as we speak to try and fit Julio Jones in there so I don't have to look like a fraud. And so we'll see. We'll see if he ends up in my final lineup. We could build the suspense.
Yeah, there we go. All right. So, to your point, James White, he's not going to be on the field for a ton of plays. But I do think when he is on the field, they do utilize him. So he gets a run. He doesn't typically break long runs, so he might. He has the ability to. But then he's also going to catch a couple of passes. I think he's a good bet for 3 to 4 receptions, which at least for that kind of low money gets you something. And like you said, he could break one for a touchdown. With Hogan, for me, that's a total dart throw. But he could do absolutely nothing as we've seen. He could do. He can get that long pass, which is either a touchdown or at least 60 yards or something. But for 3,900 as a wide receiver, I think the money's right.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're going to have to take some chances when you got 4 games to choose from in a DraftKings lineup. You're going to have to take some chances, and if you hit on one of them, that could almost win your week right there. So. Yep.
Agreed. All right, so let's. Anything else from this game that you want to bring up or feel needs to be mentioned?
I don't. I think everybody out there agrees. Other than I was going to say other than the Texan fans, but come on, guys.
Even they
look at the mirror tonight.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure even J.J. Watt knows that this is going to be bad for them. So,
he might not even show up. He might be like, I haven't got an engagement party, guys.
Yeah, if I were him, I would say, oh, the back flared up. I'm gonna sit this flight out. So, all right. So Pittsburgh will travel to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs 1:00 on Sunday. It should be a much better game than the Saturday night game previously. So, and should be a better game than the Pittsburgh-Miami game, obviously from last week. I think Pittsburgh's going to have its hands full with Kansas City in this one, especially going into Arrowhead. I think you're right that this one, Pittsburgh's defense has been playing better, but Kansas City's offense, with the emergence of Tyreek Hill, has been a lot more explosive. It's harder to defend. So I think they're going to have some struggles there. And on the other side of the ball, we saw what Pittsburgh's offense can do, but Miami's defense isn't what Kansas City's defense is in my mind. I think this game's going to end up being a little bit lower scoring than people realize.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. So I actually have Roethlisberger in my lineup because I didn't want to put Dak in. I was trying to work it out because I did use Ezekiel Elliott, so I didn't want to put Dak in. But I have Roethlisberger in there because I do think that he'll be able to get me a nice solid amount of points. But as you know, and as we've talked about before, I believe you and Steve have the Steelers going on from this game. But I have the Chiefs moving on from this game.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
I think that the Chiefs' combination of defense, special teams, and getting that big play from, say, a Tyreek Hill or maybe one of the running backs breaks one free, because I'm sure Charcandrick West will be involved in the game plan as well. I think that they'll be okay, and they'll win a gritty game. Yep. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs to move on and threaten your Patriots next week.
Yeah, I don't see that happening with.
I said threaten.
They'll threaten.
Not beat.
They'll threaten. Look, I don't think they win, so I guess they're not going to threaten them at all. I do think Pittsburgh wins this game. I think it's going to be tough. I'm nervous about that pick, in all honesty. I think this game could go either way because I don't know that you can predict what Ben Roethlisberger is going to do on the road. We've talked about it a million times. His road splits are terrible, absolutely terrible. So that offense could be slowed down by that, and maybe it's not. Maybe Le'Veon Bell is not enough to get them over the hump. I think this game's going to be very close. Like I said, I think it's going to be fairly low scoring. The line on it's 1.5 for points. Pittsburgh's the underdog here. It's a 44-point over/under. So, Vegas kind of sees it the same way, I guess. And in this game, I really don't have too many. I mean, I went with Antonio Brown. Although I'm kind of, rethinking that right now as we're talking, because the money was huge. 9,600. He's the most expensive wide receiver out on the market. So, but he's Antonio Brown, and he had 3 touchdowns last week.
Listen, Kansas City's for DraftKings lineups are 24th against the wide receiver position.
Yep.
So I can understand it. I went with Eli Rogers as one of my value plays this week. I think that a lot of guys are on the field for the Steelers, but I think of all those secondary wide receivers, he's the guy who gets the most looks and has, the slot stuff, over the middle stuff, the quick little plays like that.
Yeah, he had that first catch last week for 16 yards, and I was like, oh, this might actually work out. He's going to have a good week, and then nothing.
Yeah, I had him in last week. You had him in as well?
Yeah, I had him in last week, too, in a couple lineups. I
actually had him and Colby Hamilton, and thinking I'd be a little slick. I said, they're going to double up Brown. I'll take care of Brown. He had 2 50-plus yard touchdowns in about 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Kick me in a ding, basically. So, but I think that maybe the Chiefs come out and learn their lesson from what happened last week with Miami, and Brown is marked up a little bit better. I don't think Brown is a guy that you can cover fully all the time. So, he's for the money you spent, there's always that chance that he's taking one to the house. So
what you're
if you're going to go big on somebody, that's not a bad guy to go big on.
So what you're suggesting, though, based on what you're saying, is you would rather go with Julio Jones. So I should take out Antonio Brown, add in Julio Jones, and spend that $1,200 somewhere else.
No, not at all.
All right, the other guy from this game that I have in my lineup, I do have Spencer Ware because I think that he is going to be involved in the game plan a lot. I think that, to your point earlier, Pittsburgh has done a great job against the passing game more lately than they have against the running game. For DraftKings, they're Pittsburgh's 24th ranked defense against running backs, and Spencer Ware was a relative bargain at 5,200. So,
yeah, I agree with that. I think he'll get the goal line touches if they get in that area. And again, he sounds like he was not healthy down the stretch, and he played through it a little bit, and that might be why Tyreek Hill was getting a little bit more of looks in the run game. So you're getting that bye week and getting a little bit healthy, and he's a full go of practice. Maybe we see the guy that was a steal in your drafts the first few weeks of the season. At least I'm hoping so.
Agreed. All right, anything else on this game?
No, sir.
Let's continue on. Green Bay Packers will travel to Dallas to play the Cowboys at 4:40 on Sunday. Sal, a lot of people think this is going to be the best game of the weekend. Is that your thought?
Well, with the way the Packers have been playing, and the Cowboys being the best team in the NFL this year record-wise, I know you Patriot fans get all crazy when we say that, and I do think the Patriots are the hotter team, so to speak, right now.
Same record, by the way. Same record.
Yeah, well, you're in the AFC. It's not that tough.
Actually, a better record. We were better record. I don't even know what you're talking about. We had a better record. We finished with a better record than them.
Cowboys lost a game at the end of the season where they didn't play anybody.
They were 13-3. We were 14-2.
And they would have been 14-2.
I don't know how you string that any other way than we had a better record than they did.
I did forget that the Patriots only lost one game before Brady came back. But if I do believe that the Cowboys would have been 14-2 if they played anybody that last week against the Eagles. So
let me ask you this, and obviously Steve and I worked really hard to try and piss off the Dallas Cowboy fans earlier this week, and in the chat we've been kind of doing it not on purpose, just. We both feel that Dallas is going to lose.
You just said you were working hard at it.
Well, yeah, it was a joke. I mean, we both feel that Dallas is going to lose this game, which really angers the Dallas Cowboys fan.
I don't, Cowboy fans. For everybody who's out there who's a Cowboy fan, I am predicting you guys will play in the NFC Championship before you lose.
Sal is a man of the people. Let me ask you this, though. Do you think the Dallas Cowboys are the best team in the NFL right now?
No,
Do you think that they are?
No.
Do you think they are what their record says they are?
I think that they are what their record says they are because that's what Bill Parcells told me, right?
Right.
That you are the games that you win. If you go out there and find ways to win, you find ways to win. They're a great offense. And they're a very good offense. They got an unbelievable offensive line. They don't have a very good defense. So, no, I don't think that they're the best team in the NFL. I do think that the Patriots are the best team in the NFL. I think they're the best coach team in the NFL. I think year after year, they find ways to use the players that they have. Players buy into a system. It's got to be nice. You know, I knew that feeling in the late 90s and 2000s with the New York Yankees, where guys would come in, guys who maybe were a little bit older or guys that were good role players, and they come in and they know what their role is. They're willing to take that role because they want to win a championship. They're willing to maybe take a little bit less money, play part-time. And you got that in New England. And on top of that, you got the best quarterback in the game. So that's right, Packer fans. It's not Aaron Rodgers.
A lot of debate about that this week, huh?
So, yeah, and Aaron Rodgers is phenomenal, playing at such an elite level right now. But he has done it the way Tom Brady has done it.
Did you see the question on the app? I'm assuming you did, regarding the skill set. Obviously the question was, would you take Aaron Rodgers or would you take Tom Brady as far as a skills comparison, not pedigree and not what they've done in the league and all of that. If you just looked at their actual skills, how they throw the ball, their running ability, all of that, that was the debate. So
I didn't see it. I did see one that compared their stats through a certain amount of game, whatever amount of games it is that Rodgers had played so far. I did see that one, and his numbers were better than Brady's, but Tom Brady wins, and there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, there is.
And he's had epic seasons and seasons where he could come out and just do whatever it is that he wanted. And he also, he played 4 less games this year, came back, didn't miss a beat, led the team to 1 loss. Listen, I said this earlier in the year. If you dislike Tom Brady, it's because he keeps beating your team. That's the only reason why.
Yep.
Because the guy he's not even douchey to me. People say he's douchey, whatever. You tell me what you'd be like if you won all the time and you were married to her and you had that kind of money and you lived that kind of life. You'd come across that way too.
Yeah.
So
he's actually really not like. I mean,
I don't get that vibe off him. I think he's a down to earth guy. I think he's a good guy, and I don't know how the hell this turned into a goddamn Tom Brady baloney party over here.
I don't know, but I love it. This is great. So let's get back to the game, obviously, that we were talking about, which wasn't even the Patriots game. The Dallas.
Well, you were asking me if Dallas
Correct.
was the best team in the NFL, and I don't feel that way, and I don't think that they'll beat. I think they'll win this game and lose to the Falcons next week. So
what makes you say they beat the Packers? Is it Jordy Nelson, or if full strength, you think they'd still win?
I felt like they were going to beat the Packers. I did think the Packers would get past the Giants. I felt like the Cowboys would be in the NFC Championship coming into the playoffs. So I didn't change on that based on Jordy Nelson. That doesn't help. I just think that they'll be able to control the line, and I think that they're going to try to grind this game out. I think that they're going to run the ball a lot, which is why I did pay up for Ezekiel Elliott. I know that the Packers are 5th against the running backs in fantasy this year, but they were better first half of the year. They haven't been as good second half of the year. So I think this is an Ezekiel Elliott game, and maybe you see, are McFadden and Morris both going to be active? I think you see a ton of running, and I think that they grind it out and win this game.
So Vegas has this game as a 52.5 point over-under, so they think this is a fairly high-scoring game comparatively. It's the highest over-under of the week, and Dallas is a 4.5 point favorite. My question to you, Sal, is if they're going to control the clock, wouldn't you expect less points?
I would. I would take the under. I'm predicting the under in this game.
All right, so but you're still going with Elliott. I'm assuming you just grind it out, and then he probably at least scores once is your method there.
Yeah, and how often does this guy against even good defenses just break off a big one?
Yeah.
He broke off some big runs this year or big dump-off pay. He didn't catch a ton of passes, but he caught ones where he was in wide open space. it's got to be nice to drive through truck lanes, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I did take Dez Bryant in this game because I just think Green Bay's secondary is so beat up and has been so terrible for a while now. I think he's a pretty good play. Jason Witten was another guy that I took only because, I mean, he was a cheap option and you kind of had to throw some. I didn't like any of the other tight end options really for this week. Bennett was a little too pricey for me, and I just, Jimmy Graham hasn't played the way he should, and Travis Kelce was way too expensive. So I thought Witten was a good low price option at what was he at here? 3,500 compared to Jimmy Graham, who's 4,900, and Kelce, who was 6,100. So I thought that he was a good option there. And in one lineup, not in the lineup in our match, Sal, I did take Dak Prescott to stack with Dez Bryant because I think Prescott, who was really cheap for quarterbacks, as far as the quarterbacks, I think he was the cheapest of the starters. So at 6,000. Oh no, Alex Smith a little cheaper than him, but that stack I think you could see at least a touchdown from both of them. So I think it's a pretty good move.
Why wouldn't you expect that if they're going to grind it out, run the ball? A nice play action shot down the field to Dez. They've done it.
Yep.
They've done it this year. It's definitely, run it, go up top. And we all know I say it all the time. No elite wide receiver in the NFL has higher touchdown upside than Dez Bryant. So I don't hate the play on that, even though I think that they'll grind it out and keep it a little bit of a lower scoring game. The tight end I went with actually is Jared Cook.
Okay. Yeah.
I think at 3,900 he's more than Witten, but I think that he's got better big play ability than Witten, right? So and with Jordy Nelson being injured and likely not playing, I think that he gets a little bit more looks. So I thought he was a pretty good value as opposed to, like you say, Jimmy Graham and Kelce, who were the premium tight ends who I don't see getting it done this week. I don't think that Kelce will have a bad game and be shut out, but I don't know that he was worth the value that he was coming in at, especially when we paid up at other positions.
Yeah, I'm not paying wide receiver value and wide receiver 2 value at that for the tight end in this one. I just can't. I can't justify it, particularly the way that, like you said, the Pittsburgh defense has been playing. So, any other players in this game that you're really considering? I have one lineup where I have Devontae Adams. He was a little bit expensive, but I do think with Jordy Nelson out, him and Cobb could be good plays. Someone's going to have to catch the ball. So
I did have, before rearranging my lineup, I did have Cole Beasley in there. It was always, again, a reasonable DraftKings or DFS option. Yep. and a great target grabber. So in a full point PPR, he's a guy that if you're looking for a reasonably priced option, you could throw in your lineup.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the full point PPR is definitely what sells it for you there. That's it, Sal. Anything else from this game that you want to talk about?
I'll say this only one time. Let's go Cowboys.
Wow. I can't say that. And I do think they lose. So to recap our predictions for this weekend, Sal, I have Atlanta over Seattle. You?
I have Atlanta over Seattle.
I have New England over Houston.
I agree.
I have Pittsburgh over Kansas City. That's where we disagree, correct?
Correct. I will be taking the Chiefs to head to Foxborough next week.
And I like Green Bay over Dallas, and you do not. So
I like Dallas to be hosting the NFC Championship next week. Should be a lot of fun in that game. That's a game I will see as more of a firework game.
Shootout. A little bit of a shootout there. I can see
Correct,
that.
Sir.
And that's it. So why don't you start us off since Steve is not here with your final thought?
Steve, I'm going to now screw up your final thought because I never write anything down. You could find us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on all our social media platforms at Falafel House. You could check out all of our work and our predictions and all that happy crap and stories that we have on falafelhouse.com. And, other than that, enjoy the games this weekend, get in the Fantasy Life app, get in the chat room. Nothing more fun than a playoff Saturday or Sunday in the Falafel chat and people just going over everything that's that's taken place that day.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a lot of fun. Definitely get in there. And for me, I just want to remind everyone that we love reviews, as I always do. I like to see some reviews get put up on the iTunes. So if you are a subscriber or a new subscriber, or you haven't subscribed but you are going to after this podcast, I would love it if you would go in and type a review for us. Let us know how we're doing. We would appreciate it. And that's it.
Hey, Kev, I'll add one more thing. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, that's good.
And not to get too deep into anybody's personal business, but if everybody at home is listening, if you could send prayers out to two people from me. One is our good friend Rob Shai Ruxin. Mom is not doing well, and Rob just reached out to us to let us know that it's very possible that she's close to passing. So if you could send your prayers out to Rob and his family, and also for me, my cousin Janet, who if you guys have listened to my stories, and I talk about Doug, a.k.a. Frenchie, who's the guy who got me into fantasy football. He's married to my cousin Janet, and she's battling cancer for the third time. She started chemo today. So, we have a lot of fun here, but if we could stop and think about everybody and send prayers out to those families, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, definitely, Sal. Great points. And, thoughts definitely going out to your family, Sal, as well as to Rob's. Rob's a great guy, contributor to the website. Great time chatting with him in the app and everywhere else. Just a very, very good guy. So we wish the best for his family. Hope getting through this tough time. So that about does it for us for the evening or for the morning for you. And until next time, Sal, can you hit the button?